Good morning.
Good morning.
This may be more appropriate for Richard, but please feel free to comment across the board. Any thoughts on the status that Universal and Glenn Larson both are proceeding with a big screen Galactica that is in no way connected with the more recent series?
Well, first of all, there is Brian Singer, Glenn Larson are developing I guess, another reimagining of the original Battlestar with the original mythology. But obviously, I think the challenge will be that you have fans of the original series that, you know, maybe half, a third, something crossed over to the new show, but we're probably still pissed off, you know, about what happened. They wanted to see a continuation. You have dedicated, very dedicated fans of the new show, and it's very hard to reimagine any classic ever, even once. And I think Ron Moore's genius was that he found a way to do it and do an extraordinary job with it. To do it twice, and you're covering some similar territory there, to do it twice within such a short time frame is going to be incredibly challenging. But I will only say that I love Battlestar, I love this story, and I hope they find some way to find an original approach, gain new information, show us new insights, and do something extraordinary. But it's going to be a huge challenge. I mean, I don't know what they'll come up with, but they are in process of putting that together. Yeah.
This side?
Hey. Oh, we're good? Okay, great. I was just wondering, for any of you guys, if and how being on the show changed your ideas about robotics and artificial intelligence, and you know, if any of you went home and started treating your Roomba with more respect.
Treated your what? With more respect? What?
Your robotic vacuum cleaner.
Oh. Now I'm like vacuum cleaner. Okay. I love my toaster. Even before this all happened. I think we all got, basically, I think we all got in tune with something when 9/11 happened. And compounded by that and where we were at the moment of 2003, when this show was kicked off, it became real evident that we were not looking at this in the same way. So, yeah, I changed. I looked at my vacuum cleaner, my Hoover, a little different, and it's become a lot nicer to me. It really works.
This side. Okay.
One of the things I admire most about the show is the way it balances the military point of view and the civilian point of view against each other, and treats it with dignity and respect to both sides. Since on the panel we've got 2 military personnel and 1 civilian and 1 other. Could you guys talk a little bit about the different ways that you approach the roles in terms of whether you're military personnel, civilian personnel, or a toaster?
Take it, Aaron. Aaron's still sleeping. Who's the toaster?
I guess we'll move on.
Yeah. I don't know if we can answer that other than to say that, you know, we had a lot of help in understanding what we're doing up there and doing this. And the military aspect, I'm really grateful that they really stayed. The technical aspect was really, really extraordinary. And I think it's become one of the most viewed, if not the most viewed, series of television series to hit the war zones in the last 5 or 6 years. They use it a lot to entertain themselves. they really like it. And I haven't gotten, I said yesterday, I have gotten a lot of calls from a lot of major high-ranking officers who say thank you very much for exposing us for the pressures and the understandings that we go through. Of course, my guy became an alcoholic and a drug addict, but you know, that's part of the whole trip, that you have to realize what happens to human nature, but it's overwhelmingly belittled to the point where it doesn't want to live anymore. He went through an awful lot. And basically, I think that the Cylons, you know, I don't know what they felt in regards to what changes we made, but all I can say is, you know, thank you. Thank you for understanding it, and the relationship between military and human and the public world has to grow a little tighter, a little bit better, but I don't know that it's going to happen in reality. You know, it's
Aaron?
He doesn't want to talk.
Throughout the run of the series, the way Ron Moore and the writers addressed the issues of faith, it seems their point was distrust organized religion, but spirituality and pursuit of something higher is okay. Could you speak to that?
Well, you kind of just said it. Yeah, I don't know. The religiosity of the show, I think, is something that affects everybody differently, and everybody interprets how they see it based on their upbringing and their experiences in their own lives. And I know there's, in the sci-fi genre, a lot of the fans would be agnostic or atheist, and to kind of set religion aside. I don't know, the show, yeah, there's multiple gods, and then there's one God, and then there's no God, so everybody takes something different away from it. I think it's good to seek first to understand, then be understood. And if you got that from the show, then great, but if you didn't, then go watch it again.
This side.
Good morning. My question is for the whole panel. Each of your characters goes through a series of moral dilemmas faced either with your individual survival or the survival of your group as a whole. And I'm just curious, which of those moral dilemmas do you think was the most difficult for your character to deal with?
Well, the airlock, going up the airlock. Very enjoyable, but you know, very painful ride. Yeah. I want to say for me, it's funny because you get into shows like this, and a lot of times, you know, you're playing a character, but you may or may not necessarily agree with everything the character agrees with, and I know all fans have their own judgment and feeling about characters and how they feel about them, but you know, I really like Tom Zarek, but the challenge was really, you know, I mean, if you're a wounded idealist, which maybe we all are on some level, you know, it's very challenging to kind of deal with the powers that be and realize that, you know, and this is what's happening in the world now. We have to challenge our leaders, and we have to make them accountable and realize that democracy, and this is an issue that I think BattleStar, a major theme of BattleStar, was how easy democracy can be lost in a post 9/11 scenario. And so for me, you know, it was really dealing with a guy that maybe wanted to make positive changes and literally had no recourse, had every avenue blocked, and therefore had to deal with it, examine his anger, his frustration, his distrust of power and authority, and then trying to find some way to do it, you know, within the scope of humanity, and not being able to do that. And then having to kind of go to that extreme measure that he did at the end, and believe it or not, some of the most challenging, difficult scenes I ever played in my life was really those last scenes dealing with Zarek. and having to make that extreme measure of a coup. And probably every leader, anybody in a position of power, who has to make decisions about life and death and decide, is it okay for some people to die in order to make it possible for more people to live? But I tell you, it doesn't matter what the moral implications are. Having to do that, to play those scenes, was the most impossible, challenging thing I've ever done. And thank God, producer, writer Michael Angeles was on the set, because he came over and talked me through it. It really helped me to find a way to justify that, you know, to do those actions. So I mean, it's every great, I think, great writing, great acting always comes together when you have the writers coming up with very, very morally conflicting, challenging things that every character has to overcome. And that was